Nigeria and UAE strategize to address visa issues.
Water users cautioned against non-use of life jackets and late-night sailing.
FRSC Corps Marshal sanctions Ondo sector commander over compromising standards.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall take a look at budget implementation in the country.
Yeah, before we commence our budget, I heard from the grapevine, Yenri, they are still living off your last month allowances, which means that your budget skill is top-notch.
How are you sure of that?
Well, I heard.
Your source may not be too correct.
Oh, okay, no problem. Since independence, budget implementation has generated serious debates across Nigeria. The same issues affecting implementation have also lingered as well.
And if you ask some, they would say these issues have lingered for far too long. Let me recall some. Of course, you want to make mention of poor planning, corruption, and issues with capacity.
Well, over the years, several budgets have overlapped into others. For instance, Budget 2024 will run simultaneously for 6 months with this year's budget, wrapping up in June.
And you recall that the 2025 budget was significantly increased, making it the country's largest budget. But some would disagree, based on the exchange rate, But now this implies that the country would have more money to spend this year. Now, though concerned persons are, however, seeking caution and fiscal discipline to ensure that inflation figures stay as low as possible.
Yes. They believe that previous budgets were not implemented as planned, and also advise that ministries, departments, and agencies should carry out periodic reviews to ensure funds are judiciously spent.
And since the deficit in the 2025 budget will be sourced from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, or if you like, the FIRS, the Nigeria Customs Service and government agencies, concerned persons say they should be properly guided to ensure targets are met.
Yes, to ensure that the targets are met. So that has been described as a positive development, since Nigeria will not be printing more money to fund the budget. Experts also draw attention to factors beyond Nigeria's control that impact the implementation of the 2025 budget. Some of these issues include the fluctuating exchange rate of the naira, the country's oil production capacity, and crude oil prices.
All right. Now, the budget cycle is another issue of serious concern for many because of its impact on implementation timelines. They explain that lawmakers have had to postpone hearing on budget proposals directly impacting the next budgeting. Just like this one, February, that was when it was signed. So let's see how it goes.
Well, we just hope that it will be well implemented. The long debate on aligning fiscal policies to monetary policies is even more serious now because of how crucial experts believe this is to Nigeria's economic stability. Let me mention that there is also some attention on sectors where funds for the budget deficit will be channeled.
And yes, the attention is on how they will perform. Now, some of them include the Bank of Agriculture, the military, talking about accommodation for military, that's the barracks specifically, military aviation, irrigation, transportation, and border infrastructure.
So on and so forth. So on Good Morning Nigeria today, our attention is on budget implementation and issues that impact it. Welcome to the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I'm Yanrei John. I also welcome you to the program. We're live on the network service of the NTA. This is the very first edition of Good Morning Nigeria for the week. It promises to be outstanding. So we expect you to stay put because this is Africa's largest TV network. And like we always say, you can't beat the rich. Stella Nameti is nodding her head, of course. She doesn't have a choice. It's the truth. And she's ready with the morning news.
Budgets too well.
When it comes to women, don't talk about budget. We leave off the budget of men.
Yeah,
Stella, have I spoken your mind?
Yes.
You have spoken my mind. And today we have more women in production this morning, so it's good. Okay, now the news. Welcome. Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, are set to hold talks in the coming days to address persistent challenges Nigerians face in obtaining visas. The talks aims to resolve concerns over visa restrictions and strengthen diplomatic and economic ties between both nations. Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Bianca Ojukwu and UAE Ambassador to Nigeria Salem Said Al-Shamsi reached this decision when he paid a courtesy visit in her office concerning difficulties Nigerians are facing in obtaining UAE visas, especially tourism visas. In a statement, the state minister acknowledged that both countries are enjoying cordial relationships through several agreements signed to foster economic cooperation. Bianca Ojukwu also thanked the UAE for the large consignment of relief materials it's recently donated to support flood victims across Nigeria, as well as vaccines for chickenpox patients to support Nigeria's health institutions. The state minister disclosed that both countries expect to sign more agreements in the second quarter of this year. The National Inland Waterways Authority has cautioned waterways users against non-use of life jackets and late-night sailing to reduce incidences of waterways accidents. NEWA gave this admonition during the presentation of patrol boat and unveiling of river marshals in Kacha local government area of Niger State.
It's unfortunate that we've been having some mishaps. Most of them are actually avoidable if precautionary measures are taken. And this is just one of the steps that we are doing now to see that the people are conscious, and they're also seeing that NEWA is not leaving them alone. There are other things that are also on the pipeline that will be unveiling as we progress.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, has approved the postings of newly appointed Deputy Inspectors General of Police to key departments and formations within the Nigeria Police Force. A statement by the force indicates that the deployment aims to optimize their experience and expertise, enhancing operational efficiency and strengthening the force's ability to tackle evolving security challenges. According to the posting directive, DIG Sadiq Idris Abubakar has been assigned to the Force Criminal Investigation Department. DIG Benjamin Nebolisa Okolo will now lead the Force Intelligence Department. DIG Williams Adebola Wale assumes leadership of the Department of Information and Communication Technology. DIG Zigu Yakubu Kwazi takes charge of the Department of Operations. DIG Adebowale Ayinde Hamzat has been posted to the Department of Logistics and Supply. DIG Idegu Basil Kwoma will head the Department of Research and Planning. Additionally, the IGP has reassigned DIG Sahabu Yahaya as the head of the Department of Finance and Administration. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police has expressed confidence in the leadership capabilities of the senior officers, emphasizing that these appointments will further enhance the effectiveness of the Nigeria Police Force. Corps Marshal, Federal Road Safety Corps, Shehu Mohammed, has ordered the immediate sanction of the Ondo State Sector Commander for compromising safety standards of the Corps' patrol vehicle. This is in reaction to the disturbing video that has gone viral regarding one of its petrol vehicles captured operating with a worn-out tire. Aside other sanctions imposed, the Corps Marshal has ordered that the vehicle be booked for infraction and the sector commander made to pay the fines for negligence. While commending the public for their watchdog role, the Corps Marshal emphasized that such very act is a complete negation of the core values as well as standard operating procedures on maximum safety standards for all operational and administrative vehicles of the Corps. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Yenri and Ademola after the break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry life. Together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Sunana Safiya Ismail, ni daga Gwagwalada Area Council a karkashin Giri, ina da yara 7 da mijina. Sana'ana sadda itace. Akwai damuwomi da yawa, rashin kudi. Da mun sonta zaka ga itace zai kare, ba kudi ne zaka siya wani. An kira ni, ayi Safiya Ismail, nace yes. Come for your benefits at Angwando do Gwagwalada. Suka bani ATM din, immediately now withdraw kudi na. Amman gaskiya kudin ya zo at the right time.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
TerraCube is available in beef, chicken, jollof and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 50, 100, 200 and 500 naira.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
What wakes you up in the morning? Is it the sunrise? Is it the alarm? No. It's your dream that wakes you every day. It's what drives you like a powerful engine. That's why you start strong every day with the rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1, carefully crafted from selected coffee beans. You're on your hustle, and you won't stop until you succeed. Start strong, finish strong.
No buy am.
But why?
No see say this big bull bull bag of rice no get the new Big Bull holographic seal?
Not true.
Introducing the Big Bull holographic seal tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
The holy month of Ramadan is here again. A month to submit to the will of Allah. A month to share. A month to care. And most importantly, a month of goodness. Start well and end well with the goodness of peak milk at Sahar and Iftar, and share the nourishing goodness of peak milk with everyone around you. Ramadan Kareem.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
Little body, big moves. Little brain, big learning. Your little child is eager to do big things. Every sachet comes with the nutrients they need every day. Made from natural grains, contains protein and fortified with iron to support their physical growth, learning, and development. So you can fully enjoy your little one's big moments of growth.
Nigeria is perched on the treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin, but none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
All right, up next is Newspaper Review.
Well, our newspaper reviewer is here. Chooks, good morning.
Morning, Debola. How are you doing?
Great.
I think Arsenal is effectively out of the EPL race, so I'm not a very happy man. Neri, how are you doing?
Very well.
You're welcome.
Very well. Thank God I'm not a fan of Arsenal.
The heat is treating you well?
Very well.
Okay.
I'm finding my way to manage it. You just have to live with it.
It's okay.
Or can you change it?
Only God can.
All right, let's see what the papers have. We don't intend to change the headlines, so just read it as it is. We'll begin with this Nigeria this morning, and it leads with Rivers suspends suspicion over Governor Fubara's invitation to lawmakers. The letter was circulated through social media and released on Sunday via SSJ's Facebook handle. Says lawmaker, he should just implement Supreme Court judgment. Governor 6 meeting on withheld salaries, Assembly seating venue, representation of budget. All right, that's on page 4. All the details you can find there. Away from that, insecurity, just beside the masthead. That's the kicker. Stop the menace, Catholic bishops tell federal government. All right, we have a picture story here, and of course, it's still on Women's Day celebration. And below that, we have Abacha family tackles IBB's claim on June 12 annulment. Looks like the last has not been heard concerning the book by IBB. The writers, Babangida was in charge. It's just attempting to distort history. That's on page 5 of this Nigeria. So let's move quickly from this Nigeria now, see what the blueprint is offering this morning. The blueprint looks a bit different. The lead story here says, a journey in service. Take responsibility for June 12 annulment. Abacha family tackles IBB. The writer urges Nigerians to ignore attempt to manipulate public perception. All right. Away from that, gunmen kill Kwara Mieti Allah chair Idris Abubakar. That's on page 7. Not a good one. And above the masthead. All right. Let's look away from the masthead. That's not a story to be read, but let's see below the picture story here. We have Fubara Bows invites Ame Wule led Rivers Assembly for talks today. Lawmakers summon Rivers SIEC chair commissioner over October 5 local government poll. Below that, 4 drag kingpins bag 95-year jail for trafficking 4.6 billion naira cocaine. Suspected headers kill 7 in Benue community, injure 11 others. And finally, in the green strip, we have troops confiscate 212,000 liter fuel after gun duel in Niger Delta. That's on page 6. That's all I have. Demola.
Okay, thank you, Yere. I have the Daily Trust newspaper with me, and just below the nameplate, we have community leaders, bandits, work out peace deal in Katsina local governments. Details of that story can be found on page 3. General Siga's abduction reminder of alarming insecurity in North ACF. Details can be found on page 5. Rivers lawmaker dismisses Fubara's invitation. The details of that story can be found on page 13. 2027, Tinubu's re-election campaign kicks off in the North. El-Rufai meets Aregbesola Bakare in Lagos, Atiku in Abuja. President's son intensifies Ramadan visits. Details of that story can be found on page 4, 12, and 13. Stop tarnishing Abacha's image over June 12, family tells IBB. Details of that story can be found on page 12. How Kwara Mieti Allah leader was killed. Details on page 33. And the black strip shows that kidnappers fed us with Gary, freed Benue varsity students. Details of that story can be found on page 3. And Chooks, as usual, the African proverb, a person who is too shy to ask questions will never learn anything.
Yes. It's never a shameful thing to
ask questions.
Curiosity takes you a little further in life, as long as it don't become a problem to other people. Because
maybe we should say we should ask the right people questions. Maybe that should be added to that, because I mean,
is there a right question or a wrong question?
No.
I mean, asking the right people.
Okay.
Because
fine.
that's when you get the right response.
Otherwise, in Debudia and Kokori during campaign for DBA and Lucky Medio, Debudia would follow who no road, make you no go fall inside the hole.
Abi?
You ask the question to the wrong
person. You're on your own.
So she has a point there. Abacha's family is asking IBB to accept responsibility for annulment of June 12. That's my opinion too. Yes, there could be people behind you who may be too powerful to be challenged, in the sense that...
But you are the leader.
Yeah, you are the leader. But people behind you could just get a leader who brings them together and plan against you as the leader. And you look around and you see that putting up some kind of resistance is going to really break too many heads. Then you diplomatically... So it depends, really. It depends. But at the end of the...
the leader, as a leader, you are responsible for every action and decisions that you take.
Yes.
Whether the people behind you are pushing you or not.
I agree.
The best thing you can do at that point is to resign if you feel that, well, you cannot do it again.
If you resign, the same people would take over.
But that removes that responsibility.
Okay, the
from
blemish. Okay, you have a point there.
Yeah.
I think you have a point. Let's not overflog it. I think you have said it. If you think that the situation is one that challenges your feeling of honor, chivalry in those days, long horseback showed chivalry, then you do that which is necessary. Yeah, you lose something to gain a lot later in life. Niger military, you didn't read that piece. We are ranked 31st globally, 3rd in Africa. Only Egypt and Algeria are considered to be, somewhat ahead of us.
It's not in the headline.
Okay, didn't see that. It's okay. I just thought we should
what's that?
We should recognize the fact that a lot of improvement is going into equipping our military. It is really happening. They are getting better equipment. I pray too that they are getting more morale boosting, things from behind the scenes. That's a good one. I think I like it. Rivers, Supreme Court order or judgment is being obeyed. I like that. The letter to the lawmakers, they are saying that it was put out on social media, which day.
That is the governor inviting them for
at least he is extending the olive branch. Rivers has not yet been solved. I keep on saying that. Rivers has not yet been solved. There are times you make a decision that is political, not really one that is based on all the evidence before you. It is called social engineering, nation building. There are decisions you make that are political decisions. For instance, Tantita, managing security in the Niger Delta, some people will tell you it's a political decision so that we'll have some peace in the Niger Delta. And it's working so far. So whatever it is, let Rivers have a situation where some of the decisions are political so that the people can live together afterwards. I hear some groups in the Niger Delta there. Somebody was actually saying this cannot be like Alame Seya being pushed out and Jonathan takes over. That was Ijo taking over from Ijo. This one is a different case. So they are setting up their own little scenarios. Let us not say, look, the court has ruled. Let them Rivers has not yet been solved. Let us all put heads together. Amawule and his men, for instance, should not get in there now and say the first thing is to impeach Fubara. I don't think it's going to work out properly for Rivers. If that's then that's my opinion.
I don't think they are planning to impeach him, but what they are asking is that he should represent the budget and all.
Sure. Yeah, but that budget has been overtaken by events. That's the point. So maybe they're talking about 2025 or whatever,
I guess that's why the governor is inviting them to
the, I think they would eventually
you've spoken well, Chukide. I think above all, they should just think about how to impact the people of Rivers State.
Yeah, bless you. It is the voter, the people who elected you that should be king. It is not your politicking.
Yeah,
in the United States or the UK, you do this kind of thing, you're punished at the polls. But here, when 2027 comes now, we are this English word is a big problem for me. We are pacified with the sachets of salt and 2 noodles of rice.
Stomach infrastructure.
Stomach infrastructure. How is he doing? That's an aside.
Are you his keeper, by the way? Okay.
That man was wonderful.
No, but I mean, every right-thinking Nigerian should know that whether 2 noodles of rice, like you have said, or a sachet of salt, it's no longer stomach infrastructure. That can no longer take you anywhere with the current economic realities and then what Nigerians have gone through in the last few months. I think it's important that we begin to see our vote as our power, begin to see how we can bring in the right leaders who would do the right thing.
Very important.
Just so that we can be prosperous as a nation and, of course, as a people.
Drop ethnicity. Let's look for a Nigerian that will lead Nigeria properly.
So
that's true. So we need to do the right thing here, Chooks, by letting you go so that we can continue our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You pleasant punisher.
We take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
What food do you need?
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Energy Snacks, snack of future champions.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, or pure love.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
Welcome to Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis, a TV series dedicated to aging and older persons in Nigeria. Be part of this series and discover the transformative programs crafted to give a new lease of life to our senior citizens, courtesy of the National Senior Citizen Center.
The National Senior Citizen Center is the oasis for the senior citizens.
For thought-provoking discussions on aging, geriatric social care, and issues that matter most to our senior citizens.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis. Tune in to Silver Oasis on the network service of the NTA every Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Silver Oasis, improving the quality of lives of senior citizens.
All right, this is still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And just to take the conversation on, I would like to see our background report first. And it's put together by Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria's 2025 budget implementation is already underway.
with a total budget of 54.99 trillion naira. However, it's worth noting that the 2024 budget implementation has been extended by 6 months until June 30, 2025, meaning that as for the 2024 supplementary budget, it's running alongside the 2025 budget. Regarding the progress of the 2024 budget implementation, the Senate reported a 50% performance rate in capital expenditure and 48% in recurrent expenditure. Some key points to consider in the 2025 budget are allocations to defense and education compared to the 2023 and 2024 budgets. The health budget, for instance, was increased by more than 1 trillion naira in the 2025 budget. Extension of 2024 budget is another key factor, as the 6-month extension of the 2024 budget implementation aims to sustain progress made and achieve the budget's objectives. Another key factor is the supplementary budget, wherein the 2024 supplementary budget is part of the 4 budgets approved for the year 2024 fiscal year, which also includes the main 2024 budget and 2 supplementary budgets. Stay with us as we get connected with our array of experts and stakeholders to x-ray the 2025 budget implementation on Good Morning Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that report. Let's now bring in our guest to speak on budget implementation. Well, let me welcome to the studio Dr. Adebowale Adedokun, Director General, Bureau of Public Procurement. Dr. Adedokun, you are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning, colleagues.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Also joining us is Professor Paul Nnamchi, Member House Committee on Finance and Member House of Representatives representing Enugu East and East Uzo Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Professor Nnamchi, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
It's also a pleasure to welcome for the conversation Mr. Vayala Kwaga, the Group Head, Research and Policy Advisory, Budget Foundation. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, colleagues.
Well, let's start with the DG of Bureau of Public Enterprise, because we know that there are so many issues affecting budget implementations and so many issues when it comes to preparing the budget itself. So what are the key challenges in preparing a realistic and achievable budget, and how can be addressed?
Thank you very much. Good morning once again. The question you asked, I think the honorable member will be in the best position to respond to that.
All right.
But from the perspective of the executive arms of government, what we've done is that by the 3rd quarter of a preceding year, what we do is government releases the MTEF and is presented to National Assembly, but all the MDAs will be invited to appear before a committee of federal government where you make your presentation. You want to justify what you want to do in the following year. Discussions are held between the executive arm and the legislative arm to ensure that what the government wants to do are actually captured in the proposed appropriation bill that then becomes the act. So generally, from the executive perspective, a lot of behind the scene activities are done. You want to ask yourself, so in reality, procurement part of it is what I'm going to talk to you, where we ask questions. Where are you on your procurement implementation plan? You have a plan. How have you gone with it? We, from the procurement aspect of it, will ask questions. So basically, since I've assumed duty, we're beginning to raise the bar of not just planning and dumping it and just we fulfill all righteousness. No. Now you must fulfill that you are righteous. So basically now we are not interrogating timelines. We are cross-checking. If you say you are going to implement or purchase this, and you've told us you are going to do it in 6 months, you are going to do it in 3 months, we are now asking you questions. Give us evidence that that has been done. So by and large, the basic question we've asked, I think the honorable member would be able to shed more light in terms of the challenges in the process of appropriation, in the process of getting the budget out.
All
so
right.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. Adidoku, for your opening comments. I think Professor Namchi will respond to that. But I would like to also find out from Professor Namchi what his impression is about the 2025 budget. A lot of people think that the budget is based on ambitious macroeconomic assumptions. The budget relies on the budget is being pegged on crude oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day, which some people, if you like, some pessimists see as impossible. Exchange rate pegged at 1,500 and a projected inflation rate of 15%. Just give us your overview of this year's budget.
Well, the budget dubbed by the executive as a restoration budget was brought to the House, I think, on the 4th of December or something like that. However, I'm not holding brief for the executive. I'm talking from the angle of the legislature. There are several ways you could do. There are several. Most of the implementation you also need the institutional framework for budget to be implemented. But by coming back to what you said, that means the Ministry of Finance, the Auditor General, the legislatures in terms of monitoring, and also the central bank. These are one of the institutional framework for you to get budgets well implemented in the system, and some other issues that you might also will discuss probably. But in the case of whether it is ambitious or not, I think it is doable, because as at last year, I think I was in this program sometime, and I once said. As at that time, it was 1.8 barrels per day, 1.8 million barrels per day. And this one was at 2.0 fractions
6 million barrels per day.
It's also good for that we are a bit optimistic. And I also think that most of the crisis in Niger Delta has actually receded. So, and from the federal government angle, they are also making inroads in that of Ogoniland and others, which I feel they must have factored into that in terms of the budget. But also, I also look at what is going on with the tax regime. If the tax is being reformed so that there will be a bit of compliance or higher compliance in the society. If that will be those budgets, the tax regime will be shored up more or strengthened more to avoid a lot of evasion. Plus the budget that's going on. So it is doable, in my own opinion. And also from that angle, because you also have to be optimistic about that, but not overly ambitious, but also it is ambitious. I would also say that it's ambitious and doable, in my own thinking. I think that's the question, whether it is doable. Yes, it is doable, because you will also see from the commentary that there's increased budget in terms of defense. That means the government envisages that the military will also, they need security to ensure that there's increase in production. I don't think you mentioned that from your commentary, you didn't talk about that for agriculture. If there's food security, there will be rural economy.
And that's why the government is, putting more money in security so that, the farmers can go to the farms and, improve agriculture and all that. But some of the challenges that that I asked him the question, maybe you can throw more light. When it comes to budget challenges, what are the issues involved?
The issues in budget challenges.
Yeah.
One is over ambitiousness. Where you think that budget. I'm sorry, trying to come back to this, but somehow the executive thinks or thinks that the revenue over dependence on the high income revenue. And also, we also know that we are more or less a mono economy, where we just have oil is the mainstay in the Nigerian economy. And it's a lot of volatility in the system, where you can't just determine the price because of by a country. You may have a projection of, I think, $5 per barrel, and maybe after some time you see it going down. So it is dependent on global issues, not just on local issues. However, in our own case, what we need to do is to show up to have the required number of production, while leaving the other one to global management and global transactions. I think the government expects, envisage, not expect, envisage that is doable, and I'm sure that at the moment the oil price is going down, but also our production is also going up.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Okay, let's come to Viola now. You are the head Research and Policy Advisory Budget Foundation. From your own perspective, let's have your own your opening remarks now concerning this budget preparation and some challenges and how these challenges can be, tackled.
Thank you so much. I just hope I don't sound overly critical. I think one of the key challenges that civil society and analysts have observed is the lack of a budget law. So why a budget law is important is because it serves as a guide. Legislation essentially serves to order human behavior. Without laws, human societies would be arbitrary. But laws bring a semblance of sustainability, of order, of cohesion. So you have situations where budgets are brought to the National Assembly late, and the National Assembly is forced to scurry around and review and run through the process. And that's partly because there is no law mandating the executive to submit the budget at a particular time. There is no regulation that prescribes behavior that runs contrary to an orderly system. So you have budgets brought relatively late, giving the National Assembly very little time to properly oversight that budget. A second challenge I think that is really interesting and has come up within the recent years is the publication of implementation reports. Now, without this data, without this information, it would be next to impossible for civil society, for the academics, for the think tanks to properly assess where the government is. I'm just hearing, the report by your correspondent as to how far the capital budget has been implemented. And such information isn't available, where it's supposed to be. The Fiscal Responsibility Act in Section 30 mandates the publication of budget implementation reports quarterly, and then a half-year report after 6 months. Unfortunately, there are no penalties, for breach of that provision. So even if, it's not within the power of the Budget Office to determine, this information is not there. So what we have as of today, the last time I checked, I stand to be corrected, is the half-year 2024 budget implementation reports. So we are, 8 months, without information on how well the budget has been implemented. That's the second challenge. The third challenge, I think, and one which is, very, very intractable for some reason, is the issue of monitoring and evaluation. So for you to know that you've spent your money well, you need data on how well the monies have been spent. You need to assess how much value for money has been attained, by your spending process. I'm afraid that far too often this monitoring and evaluation is done in like an ad hoc manner, despite the fact that the Buhari administration proposed and actually came up with a very, very workable monitoring and evaluation policy, that was approved by the Federal Executive Council. It doesn't have legislative backing. So the government is basically free, to go about it the way it knows how. And that way may not provide enough information on value for money, on hitting targets. How do you know if maternal mortality has dropped? How do you know if the number of out-of-school children has reduced? How do you know if energy provision has increased, the incidence of persons with electricity available in their homes from the grid, questions like that. And without that M&E policy, mandatorily applied to the actions of government, it's very difficult for you to know if your budget is achieving its purposes. Lastly, before I round up, the issue of audits, I think that is one that is another intractable issue. Unfortunately, the system we operate doesn't allow for value for money audits and performance audits. What you get is a check, and a check is not very rigorous in terms of assuring that money proposed and money release has been spent. So, these are just a few of the problems.
Now, yeah, many thanks, Mr. Kwaga. These challenges you've mentioned have been with us, over the years. It's not just with this 2025 budget, But you see, to set a tone for this conversation, specifically on the 2025 budget, I'd like to hear your view, what you think about the budget itself. Some have said, well, this budget may just... the content, may just be, if properly implemented, you already mentioned that that's a challenge, but well, if we can surmount implementation challenges, then it's likely going to take us further than where we're coming from. I want to hear your view about that. Do you agree with that line of thought, looking at the fact that in this budget, we intend to borrow 9.22 trillion naira, which is higher than 7.83, which we borrowed last year? Just speak about, your concerns in this budget.
So the conversation is really around optimism, cynicism. Budgets are plans, essentially. And where you are unable to tie your plan to actionable, measurable results, you will consistently miss your targets. And it's less about how much or how well you spend money, and rather how impactful has the budget been on the lives of Nigerians. Before I go into addressing the 2025 budget, I'd like to preface my comments by saying there needs to be far better coordination between the federal government and the states. Yes, the president gets a lot of flack, people make fun of him on social media, but that same energy should be kept for the state governors, because we operate a federal system. And the Constitution stipulates very clearly the responsibilities of each level of government. There are things, there are public works projects, agriculture projects, education projects that local government should be handling. And, I hear people, in casual conversations say, oh, the president should have done. And I'm like, okay, that's not the president's job. That isn't even a governor's job. So there needs to be better coordination through there's a mechanism the government has, it's called the Joint Planning Board. Now, the Joint Planning Board used to meet, I think, every year under the Buhari administration. I'm not sure whether they've met under this new administration, but that essentially was a stock-taking exercise where all tiers of government, or at least the state governors and the federal government, would meet to discuss and plan and ensure that where the federal government is going, the states can cover the field that has been left behind. And that brings about coordination and cohesion and ensures that resources are spent well. So looking at the 2025 budget, it's ambitious, but I think that's what Nigeria needs. If you look at countries similar to Nigeria in terms of population, or countries with a far less, 1/3 of our population, they are spending twice, 3 times, what we spend in our budget. So the issue really isn't about we're spending too much. The problem has always been spending well and coordinating your spending. I think Kenya's budget, 2024 budget, was around $50 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And Nigeria's 2024 budget was not, I don't think it was shy of 30 billion thereabouts, if I'm not mistaken. So there really needs to be more spending, actually. Even the usual suspects of high recurrent expenditure, we actually do need more teachers, we do need more doctors, we do need more policemen, and that would increase the recurrent wage bill. But again, those monies need to be channeled to the brick and mortar people who eke out the government's policies, the doctors, teachers, and policemen. For capital expenditure, I think this budget is also very ambitious. again, we do need to spend more in terms of infrastructure. Because why the economy isn't as productive as it should, barring soft infrastructure like access to justice, the road networks, the rail lines, energy provision, waste management and disposal, these are things that would overnight ensure that business is more productive, because when you're spending less on energy, when you're spending less on logistics, when you're spending less on waste management, when you can convey your goods from one point to another as cheap as possible, you have more income to, to furnish your business, to hire more employees and to expand. So yes, the budget is interesting. The parameters are kind of more interesting. I think we'll comment on that later. But I think in terms of raw numbers, the budget is where we should be. We should even do much more. But our spending needs to be far more efficient, far more effective, and far more transparent.
Okay. Our spending needs to be more transparent, more efficiency. Thank you very much for that. Dr. Adedokun, earlier on you talked about this issue of, timelines and, monitoring and evaluation, which is very important, just like he also echoed in his submission there. So how, should budget timelines remain static, and how important are these timelines in the implementation of budget?
Thank you very much. So the idea of having a budget has been said, and the parameters set as we've all heard, is the issue of compliance, and that's where procurement plays a critical role. Over the years, we've not seen so much in terms of compliance, and so for us at the Bureau of Public Procurement, we realized that the law has provided for everything he has said: the monitoring, the audits, ensuring that value for money is achieved. The key component that has not been utilized is compliance. So what have we done? We have now decided to set out times telling every government agency, you have to start your process and you must show us at what stage you are. You must give monthly reports. Monthly reports will be submitted to the various organs for FEC. For the executive and the Federal Executive Council will be getting reports from us as the Bureau of Public Procurement. Every minister must submit. In addition, for the first time, we're even saying that all process of award must start and end by the end of May 2025. What does that say? That says that now government is serious about implementation. That means you as a government agency, you have the responsibility to make sure you determine when you advertise, how you evaluate, when the contractor will go to site, when the contractor is going to complete it. And then the second half of the year, we're now saying that we're going to the field. The field means every minister, every chief executive has the responsibility to then show in practical terms the implementation of their budgets. So it's no longer business as usual. Right? Maybe before, we don't know. Now, you know that the watchdog is coming after you to ensure that what you said you will do. In addition, we're now going to make sure that we provide timely information to the civil society, to professional bodies, to every sector of the government to know what has been awarded, when it was awarded, what amount was awarded, location of the project, and we are now going further to use civil society. We are partnering with the civil society, which I've started doing in the last couple of months, to show them what they need to know. We're talking to professional bodies to say this is what it is, and we need you. Right now, the challenge has been that there's not been strong synergy between the executive arm or those of us involved and those who are outside there, the professional bodies, the civil society. So there's now a closer relationship whereby we can't be everywhere, but these people are out there. So they can tell us this rail line you are building. You said you're going to build 5 kilometers of the rail line. BPP will give them the data, the information. They can verify. We're spending lots of resources in trying to see that that happens. So the The other component of what is happening this year is what we call community-based procurement. Okay. Now, that's very interesting. We have 774 local governments. We have thousands of wards. What the president under this regime has done is that, you see, we are trying to now say, let's take development to these wards. We want to empower them by saying, within this area, you can have resources and develop. You said you want a good primary health care center. You want this. We're now going to remove some conditions that inhibit development in those areas. So we're now saying that, let us see, amount of money has been given to you for agric, for this, for this. We want the local businessmen in that particular area to have that particular amount of money to do that job. So it's going to, you can imagine the chief of that environment seeing 10 million naira given to his ward and having the right person to handle that particular job. He will make sure that that primary health care is well built, because if otherwise the whole community will get at him. So government has said within a particular threshold, and as we have heard, President is trying to up the approval threshold that will also help to improve the turnaround time of project implementation, because if you increase the threshold, you are also giving more room for ministries, agencies, parastatals to be able to move faster rather than waiting for higher approval, and by that we lose time. So a lot of things have been put in place, like you mentioned. Do you have
enough officials to, carry out all this monitoring and evaluation you are talking about,
okay,
or are you working with subnationals, like the state government and local governments?
All right. So again, we can't continue to do the same thing the same way and expect a different results. What we're saying is that we need all critical stakeholders to achieve this. One is the civil society. So we're going to give them all data and empower them to go to the field and check. We have professional bodies, engineers, architects, medical professionals, agri professionals, IT professionals located across the country. We want them to have that power to be able to give feedbacks on what is happening in those sectors. You see, we must go sector-wise. We can't be a jack of all trade and be a master of none. We expect engineers to monitor the roads. Nigerian Society engineers, the current, they should be able to tell us the quality of the road being built from Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, Portiscom, in every local, because BPP is just the regulatory body coordinating to ensure these things are brought to life. So associations, professional associations needs to up their game to be able to tell government this is quality or this is substandard. The second leg is the subnational level, the states. We have a platform where we are working with the states bodies to be able to say, we are giving you information about federal projects located in your states. Please give us up-to-date reports. At the local level, we also have Algon. I want to let you know today that we've met with Algon, the 774 local government, the coordinating, the chairman and others, to say for the first time, we're churning out a process, a collaboration, to say in your local government, this job will be done, this project will be done. Can you, as the chairman of that local government, we want to work with you to give us timely reports of what government, federal. I know the interesting thing is this. Federal government, once it's done well at federal government, it has a way of rippling into the states and the local government down to the world. So we are the big brothers. So we are now pushing. We are pushing. So I call ourselves the enabler. We are the facilitator of the transformation of what the Renewed Hope agenda is bringing to place. The other part I need to mention, where he said the sanctions. You see, no matter how beautiful all these things we have said are, and we don't institute a kind of sanction mechanism or debarment mechanism, people will always get away with what they did last year, thinking it's business as usual. No. Right now, we form a very strong anti-corruption relationship with ICPC EFCC particularly, and Code of Conduct, to say, look, there are audit reports, there are M&E reports we have received from civil society that we have conducted on our own. We have seen infractions. Please, can you go and investigate, even if it's one that we are able to deal with? And also with National Assembly, we are churning out for the first time in years the rate at which we are churning out audit reports and M&E reports to National Assembly is something that should gladden the minds of Nigeria, because they will take them on and ask them, why, what have you done with this?
All right. Many thanks, Dr. Adedokun. From what you've said, it looks like we're going to see the budget performing better, or if you like, Nigerians will begin to feel the impact of the budget. But I want to find out, how does the Bureau of Public Procurement intends to deal with inflated costs? Because, you know, when these things are done, you know, some numbers are manipulated, you know. So how do you want to check that, just so that, I mean, we can begin to recover some money and block some leakages?
You see, when I hear inflated costs, there are a lot of parameters that make Nigerians perceive that projects are inflated. And I'll tell you straight ahead, under my watch, we have what we call price intelligence. What we're doing now is, when we receive a request, by the way, prices, once we advertise, and that's the goal, once we advertise projects, we understand that there are exceptions to that law of advertisement. We understand that. But you see, the best way to make sure costs are competitive is to ensure that agencies advertise. Because what you do in that case is that markets drives the costs. Don't forget, in preparing your cost of a project, you are going to look at cost of security. You are going to look at cost of providing fuel. You are going to look at cost of payments, cost of funds. All these are parameters that determine how the cost of a project will be. So there are other arms of government that are dealing with timely payments to contractors. So at the end of the day, when we see that a project costs so, it's not because it's being inflated. These are the parameters that makes it look. But however, from our side, is that we are not doing what is called, we've created a unit called Price Intelligence Unit. Okay. That Price Intelligence Unit is to daily monitor cost of items, off-the-shelf items. You want to buy AC, you want to buy these. Those are commonly used items. If you go to construction, we are relying on the data that we are working closely with Ministry of Works and other agencies that gives us what rates are happening. So we're going to soon publish, because all over the world, there has to be a benchmark. It's no longer going to be at your discretion. No, there are parameters that determine what a cost of 1 kilometer road is. And I can tell you, those perceptions we've been able to significantly, in the last 3 months, look at projects that come to us and benchmark. I can tell you confidently, we are seriously benchmarking. And we have reported how we have reduced projects that seemingly should have been this. Based on benchmarking, we have brought it to what is fair globally, taking into consideration that projects are determined by provision of security, provision of power, and other parameters. When we are able to sufficiently guarantee that a contractor gets a contract today, is assured that he's going to get payment as at when due, it will reduce his cost of project. If he's guaranteed security along the path of which he is working, he's going to reduce his cost of project. If he knows there's sufficient power, he doesn't have to buy this all the time, his cost of project. So this current government has now brought innovations in terms of use of other alternative sources of power. So with all this ingrained, we are beginning to see downward in terms of cost of project. I can tell you that we are beginning to see a downward. It's gradual, but I think with time, the cost of projects of doing business in Nigeria will also be...
Can you be specific? Can you give us specific numbers of the ones that have gone down?
Well, you see, there are a number of projects, again, that I won't be able to mention off it, but I've seen under my watch how we have benchmarked, and the government is happy. Nigerians are happy that the BPP is watching and is scrutinizing those costs. And those agencies know that you can't just bring any price about a project. Somebody is watching, and we give Nigerians the
Prof.
actual cost of that project.
Prof. Yeah, I mean, in the law, just like he said, and that there is we don't have the proper, legislation concerning budget monitoring and implementation. Are there provisions in the, in our law concerning budget, monitoring and evaluation and ensure accountability in budget implementation?
Yeah, I think from their own acts, it is meant to reduce bottlenecks. This is also another elephant in the house. The bottleneck from various agencies or coordination, but also the transparency. I think most of the things he's talking about is making procurement transparent. That's most of the things he's talking. But this is not part of this. Is not the only problem in the budget. As for the accountability and of implementation, I would say that the PAC, the Public Account Committee, which usually headed by the National Assembly people, I think from last year, I know within this week there was it's as a report of recovering $34 million owed by the oil companies. There was also ones that had, you see, the areas where people would do their transactions, maybe paid through remitter and others, and it doesn't get to where they get it. National Assembly have been able to get a large chunk of money from those banks. So the National Assembly is also looking at the certain procurement process. However, there's also procurement committee in the National Assembly, apart from that of Public Account Committee. You also have to see that the Accountant General or the Auditor General sends annual reports to the PAC committee. Mm-hmm. And what they do is that they evaluate from the report they have gotten whether the company is qualified, for how long has it been registered, what are their profile, and also the implementation. Where was it? Where has the money gone? What is the process of transfer? These are also checks and balances that will come later. There is a lot of infractions that they send, and it's a transaction from everywhere, including monitoring the Accountant General. So these things happen, and the PAC sits on daily basis from Monday to Friday, as against every other committee. But this one sits, and it must be from the opposition. The head must be from the opposition, not the ruling party. So just the exact means of check. Then, upon this, the National Assembly also sends their own monitoring and implementation to various ministries. They might not go often, but they also do this on a regular basis, sometimes uninformed. But you also have a situation where there is quarterly evaluation of what has been done. And before you present your budget, the National Assembly will ask you for present your monitoring implementation for the last year. However, you also do meet.
That's supposed to be part of your oversight functions.
Yes. So that you suppose it. Just for instance, somebody will order for computer today, this last year, and next year he asks order for the same computer, or order for furniture. Next year he orders for furniture. You ask him, is the furniture, is anybody employed to bring the furniture at the end of the year? You understand? These are some of the things you see in the budget. Or you have somebody that maybe you have 20 employees, and they are buying 100 computers. Who is using the rest? And next year you see the same person apply for the same thing. So these are areas that you could see. However, maybe there is also a snag in reporting or trying to make the public aware of this, because these are most of the things that the public need to be more aware of how this is done, what has been done, and others. Like this one, the ones I just mentioned that was recovered last week. I don't think the public are aware of it. I'm aware because I know the system. I also am a member of PAC, but I also want to draw our attention to the issue in terms of our budgeting. Most of the problem we have also is the high debt burden in the system. if the debt burden is so high, it will be difficult to have a lot of money for the economic development and also for social welfare of the people. Nigeria at a point, the debt burden has actually increased so much. This also tells much on the impact of the budget. When most of the things, I think this year is about 15 point something trillion, as against 11 last year or something like that. These are also great impact. You see that it is also taking a high chunk of a high part of the budget into servicing debt and others. So I also think that part that would also be the borrowing to pay for budgets is also a lot of things that is also hampering the system.
Right.
If you borrow this year, next year, it will tell on what you have next year. So it must be a manageable debt and making a law of debt ceiling, just like you have in US when you have a debt ceiling and all those. Yeah, we don't. These are very important aspects that might be looked into.
Professor Namchi, I'm sure that Mr. Kwaga would respond to that borrowing part. A lot of people have said that Nigeria must continue to borrow because, like you have said, I mean, we need to make our budget really big. We need to do a lot of big things, and of course, hopefully, we can always pay back this debt once the economy is stable. Yes. Borrow responsibly, of course, and that's where the issue of transparency, having efficiency in the whole implementation process, and all of that, just so that it leads to a better economy, which eventually we'll be able to pay back without stress. But you've mentioned a critical aspect that there's lack of information, out there for the public. And I'm asking, whose fault is it? Because, I mean, we see House of Assembly, go for oversight functions, and the National Assembly, do oversight functions, and they do that behind closed doors, without coming out to address press on what was discovered, what happened, and what went wrong. I mean, so some of this information are if you like, concealed. No, so maybe the question is, what should we be doing right, just so that the information is out there? But talking about the public and getting the information out there, public participation in budget process is also important, Mr. Kwaga. What do you think? Because, I mean, we have a lot of, looking at 2025 budget, for example, I'm sure there will be some things in it that the people do not really need. It's like you're talking about building an airport, for example, when the people are looking for access road to their farms so they can, get their produce to the market. And then you're talking about an airport or maybe a stadium or something. Engaging the public to know what exactly they need, to make their lives better. Do you think we're doing all of that? As well as possible.
Just a moment. Before you answer that, let him just answer that other aspect of oversight functions.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me tell you, before every committee has a department of press corps attached to them, and wherever they're going, they pay for. Obviously, NTA will follow. They pay for.
It's not about following; it's about the information that is.
No, it's not. It's done in the open. So they are there during the evaluation. They are there during the monitoring. They are there for the press conference. Before you leave an oversight, you must give a press conference. Mm-hmm. So it is maybe under reporting somehow. And when you are actually in the committee room, even during budget, they are there. Do you understand? So I actually think maybe there's low reportage in this case. So the National Assembly goes to you can't go for any oversight function without the press. It is a rule. So it isn't about the information. But what may happen is that maybe when most of the report comes out, it is about last year evaluation. Maybe. But on daily basis, on monitoring basis, the National Assembly goes with the press corps, both from those in that state and also those coming from National Assembly. It's a rule. And that's why you have the press corps there. If you ask most of the workers in National Assembly, every committee, you have an attachment that of people from NTA, maybe from other organization. And they also don't pay for their own trip. The National Assembly pay for them to go there and also pay for their they are upkeep till they come back.
Okay. Well, now you're putting the fault on the doorstep of the media. We'll talk about all of that. But Mr. Karga, I'd like you to respond to public participation and what exactly is public interest compared to projects that are meant to make an administration feel good.
So the first thing you talked about was who's responsible for providing information. I'm afraid I'll have to bring that to the doorstep of the executive because most of the regulation, the oversight, the authority and control, lies with the executive. So for instance, when you're talking about the provision of budget data, like I mentioned earlier, the Fiscal Responsibility Act in Section 30 mandates the Budget Office to provide this information, but there's no penalty. So essentially, we can go about not having budget implementation reports. Part of the blame also goes to the National Assembly, I guess, because the Auditor General, for instance, is meant to have reports from the Accountant General for him to consolidate his audits. But there is no stipulation in law mandating the Accountant General to submit it within a particular time. So the Accountant General basically has, so when it comes to the monthly submission of monthly reports, there's an open window for the Accountant General. Yes, order requires them to submit these things on time, but there's a window for them, not to do so. And even the Public Accounts Committee, that he mentioned earlier, that the Honourable Member mentioned, there's no law mandating the Public Accounts Committee to present that report from the Auditor General to the public within a specific time. So they have some level of freedom. I guess the framers of the law had an idea, that this process is complex. But the disadvantage of that is that audit reports tend to come out later than they should. So when it comes to the issue of public participation, during the 2023 budget, if I'm not mistaken, the Speaker of the House invited several civil society organizations for a town hall meeting. And I thought that was quite remarkable because it involved honorable members of the House, principal members of the House as well. The chairman, the House Committee Chairman on Public Accounts was also at that meeting. And there were several civil society organizations there, some of our collaborators were there. And there was a robust conversation, between us. Unfortunately, that was not replicated. So, we are beginning to get a bit worried that the public isn't carried along as they should be. For the 2025 budget, the National Assembly had the budget brought very late. So I suspect there was little they could do.
Is that an excuse?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. So if you are brought a budget, in December, before you carry out your planning, before you carry out your internal administration, you also have to think about the orderliness and the cohesiveness of the process before you think about, calling civil society. Far too often, you would get poor responses because there really isn't enough time, to call people around. I'm not exonerating the National Assembly, but I guess in some way the submission of a late budget, hamstrung them from calling the public in. But they still could have, even if it was virtual, because a lot of civil society organizations, have relatively good internet capabilities. So, that's just by the way. But I think that there does need to be greater inclusion. Like the DG of the BPP just said, we are collaborators. We are not antagonists. We are co-creators in this democracy, in this development that everybody wants to see flourish, because it's in the interest of the National Assembly, the executive, and civil society that Nigeria thrives. So we're all out, to see that process come to fruition, or at least see the country develop. So very quickly before I round up, I'll just say that, we want to implore the National Assembly, to take the stance of the BPP and call civil society, into the room. We are eager, we are willing, we have a lot of information, we have a lot of data that we think would add a lot of value to the work the National Assembly does. And I'll end by saying, budget as an organization would not exist, if the National Assembly was a bit more inclusive and a bit more transparent. We want to see the day where civil society organizations reduce and the National Assembly really steps up, to that position, because essentially we are doing what they are doing, and that gives civil society some level of legitimacy. But the ultimate power actually resides with the National Assembly, and we want to see them do more, step up to that plate, more than often.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Viola. Yeah, just like you said, you are collaborators, but not antagonistic. All right, that's good. But I want you to respond to some of the things that he said concerning, carrying along the public, in these budget formulation and implementation. How
most of the budget activities are actually done in public first. And you would agree with me that over the years, well, since we've been in the National Assembly for the past, in this 10th Assembly, one thing they have done is have also had a committee on civil societies, just to make sure they integrate them into what the National Assembly are doing, or educate them, or more, or they have a closer information about what we do. That's having said that, the general public, as usual, most of the things that the National Assembly do, they publish that. And apart from inviting stakeholders, the general public are also invited to witness this or to make contribution. So like the tax bill, most of those things, even in the budget. The budget at a point you also invite.
But this last budget, were you able to, because of the time frame, were you able to invite civil organization and the public?
Yes, it depends. Yeah, it depends on, because it's done department by department. Yeah, they were there during the budget. And the only problem you might have is that to have for scrutiny, the House of Reps would have done theirs, then you collaborate with the Senate. But when, because of that, because of the limitation in time, then you see joint sections, because of the time frame. You have to do joint session, whereby, but initially it could have been the House will be doing their own, the Senate will be doing their own. So that the Senate after would have maybe improved the quality, probably. However, it is not that this year budget oversighting is less in quality, but it may have maybe stepped up some other things. So,
all right, many thanks, Professor Namche. Dr. Adedokun, before we go on a break, I'd like to find out, you already spoke about what the BBP intends to do, or what you're already doing to make sure that this budget, meets expectation. You talked about announcements, public bidding process, and all of that. But what do you want to do about non-release of funds as being an issue to how projects are done and completed? Because, I mean, an organization may come up and say, okay, this is what we want to do, and maybe what they have is just half of the funds, as at the time they're doing that. And then somehow they don't get the other part of the money. So I don't know. How do you want to, is there anything that BP can do, or what can we do really, just so that when projects are started, we can meet timelines, and of course it can have impact on the people?
All right, so again, let me emphasize there are three components: the expenditure, the procurement, and the revenue side. You have the expenditure, the revenue, and the procurement. These three have to work together. The revenue must make sure it gathers all the revenues. The expenditure must be ready to pay as at when due, and procurement must facilitate that the process gets to the point of payment. Now, what do we do in terms of funds? I have seen the last couple of weeks the intention, the directive of Mr. President asking those who have the responsibility to release funds are put on their toes. I have seen that. So, and I'm sure under 2025 there's that framework that the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Office of Accountant General are doing to make sure that when projects are completed, there will be a massive improvement. Like the Honorable Chairman have said, in 2025, in terms of releases, there will be, I'm not saying a total, but there will be significant achievement in terms of releases. The other part of it is what I said, that agencies of government have to start their processes. Because you see, just wait for money, but don't wait and say there's no money, so I can't do my procurement process. That's a wrong approach. It's against the law. What we're now saying that start your process. What you don't do is to issue an award letter to a contractor, because once you issue, you are bound. But start the process and wait. When the releases are available, then you pay. Interestingly also, is to know that even in contractual processes, there are milestones. It's not that you need all the money at once. Some projects will last 3 years. 3 years.
So in phases.
In phases. Some projects
But we
will
also
last,
know that there are projects that shouldn't last that long, but delay as a result of non-release of funds.
Yeah, so that's what I've just told you now, that there's a deliberate plan under 2025 to match what you are awarding with timely release of
DG,
funds.
we'll take a break now. When we come back, you will complete your thought. So we take a break now. The conversation continues after the break. Stay with us.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Imagine a system where you're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, it's a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user?
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And our conversation is still on budget implementation and the issues surrounding it. We have our guest still in the studio. And before we went on break, Dr. Adidoku was speaking on the release of funds for project implementation. Can you quickly just complete your thoughts there?
Yes, like I was saying, basically in terms of release of funds, we expect the Office of Accountant General of the Federation, who was just appointed recently, to ensure that releases are made to all the MDAs. I can tell you, under 2024, a lot of projects are waiting for payment. And I'm sure, based on Mr. President directive that I'm aware of, the Accountant General is expected to make sure that those projects are paid for so that Nigerians can get value. The bottom line is value for Nigerians. They want to see good roads.
Of course.
They want to see good hospitals.
But how do you manage when you have a budget of 1 year spilling into another? For instance, the budget of 2024 now spilling into 2025, which is going to run up to June of this year. So what are some of the issues that you encounter as a result of monitoring both at the same time?
Well, like, you see, the 2024 budget, the funds for it are already appropriated for. It's a matter of the MDAs to make their requests through the GiveMix platform. And there's the bottom-top approach. Once you send in your request for payment, the Accountant General should naturally process that. That's one. So there's no conflict between 2024 and 2025. So the funds for 2024 are already there for MDAs to access. And some of the 2024 budgets provisions are also ongoing in 2025, meaning that there's already an anticipation that some of them will not be completed, but they made provision for it to be ongoing in 2025. So there should be some seamless transition from 2024 to 2025. Then the additional thing in terms of is the monitoring and evaluation, which on our platform, on the Nokopo platform, we have two components on the Nokopo platform. One is the planning. This is what I want to do. The other end of it is this is what I have done. So we have not mandated 3 months after the expiration of a budget cycle, you must upload on the Nokopo platform that this has been done. We take that data and share it with our partners, the civil societies, the professional bodies, to say, in addition to us, we set up teams. We can't do everything. Don't forget, Nigeria is huge, but we can do random sampling. By the time you do a random sampling, you send the right signal that if you are caught, then you'll be in. Not only that, now EFCC, ICPC are also on board with us. So there's that collaboration where we can't see, they should be able to see. So a lot of invitations are being churned out to MDAs to come and account of what they have done with that record. So our records on Nokopo will share with our colleagues in the different arms of government, with our colleagues in the civil society. The next is the ADISA's coordinating unit. Now, there's a very neat, close relationship between us and her. By her giving her data to enable her monitor the progress of major key procurement activities. I think the next leg is what I call us to introduce e-procurement. That's very essential to us as a nation now. We're huge. So by the time we're able to introduce electronic procurement, anywhere you are in the world.
That's bringing in technology.
Yes, technology, use of technology. Once we can do that, I've been in a particular country where they are doing a road construction, and I didn't see many people. So I went to the engineer on site, and I said, please, how are you monitoring? I just noticed that on the equipment, there's a monitoring gadgets that as the project is being worked on, is feeding a central system. So it's real time.
So they will know the quality.
They will know the quality, the time, and that's what we will enforce. We're trying to do electronic procurement, and the next level is to see if we can introduce real-time monitoring of projects. And that end is to get presidents and other key people to have a dashboard. We want to create a dashboard where, as projects are awarded, every stage of implementation, every key people are seeing it on the screen. Just like you have the tower, where you can see how all the aircrafts are moving, where they are at every point in time. We want to translate that to the procurement process, where we can see the cycle. Oh, you have done this, you have done this. National Assembly, on their own, electronically can see. The executive can see.
Where the contractors have defaulted, have there been sanctions? Because there are a lot of projects that we see. They'll put a time frame, maybe 1 year, 2 years. And after 4 years, the projects are not just completed, and we don't hear anything. Have there been sanctions, you know, of such in the past?
Yes. Again, in time past, we have seen a bit of a low downside of it. The attack has always been on government officials. I know to do the wrong thing, you require two sides, the demand and the supply side. So now we're checkmating the demand side. Now we need to get to the supply side. Now, if a contractor, in fact, in recent weeks, we have also forwarded names of contractors under my watch to investigative body to ask them to refund money. Some have been written as I'm talking to you. Some contractors have been asked to refund government money that they have collected without delivering projects. Many more are undergoing investigation.
They're
right
not in
now.
public space. We don't have them.
Yeah, because it's an investigation. At the conclusion, you can't just go to the public and say you have been found wanting. However, what we are doing now is that we're creating on our platform complaint mechanism, where on our website we want public to tell us the location where a contractor is working and is not performing. That data will help us. We're also going to debar. There's a debarment process to say contractors who have been consistent in doing wrong things. We are going to publish them so that nobody patronizes them anymore.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. Adedokun. Because of time, we need to begin to round off this conversation. Many thanks for your thought. But, on your response about government being, it's always the government side whenever a project is not completed. A lot of people get to say, well, without, people in government compromising with the contractors, I mean, the contractors cannot, dare to do what is wrong, But maybe, of course, like you said, with these sanctions, we can begin to see a change. Mr. Kwaga, as we round up the conversation, we're talking about budget implementation, and all of that is because we want the average Nigerian to feel the impact of government. We want budgets on paper to translate to reality, to infrastructure, to good roads, to, better services for the Nigerian populace. Lack of continuity is also another issue that has affected our budget implementation over the years. A DG is changed. For example, you can hear the DG of BPP with so many great plans. He's changed tomorrow, all of that goes. Somebody else comes with, something different. There's a school to be built, and then something just happens to whoever is in charge, and then the school is stopped. They are thinking of starting foundation for a new school. At the end of the day, we don't really see, tangible things on ground, or if you like completion, or if you like projects that would better the lives of people. What can we do about that? Is there anything that we can do just so that, irrespective of administration, people in government, who is the head of the agency or whatever, projects that are started are completed?
So the first thing that needs to happen is, again, I guess with the National Assembly, we need legislation. Legislation that ties budgets to medium to long-term plans. There has to be some law that structures how budgets are passed to those national development plans. And infractions, deviations should be punished. If we do not have those laws in place, administrations will come and go and rightfully decide to change their minds because there's no law preventing them from doing so. Another thing that needs to be done, again, the National Assembly, is really need a budget law, an organic budget law that stipulates what the executive does when they do it, what the National Assembly does when they do it, how the budget implementation process, the monitoring, the evaluation, the audit, and the repeat of that cycle, is to happen. If there are no laws guiding society, society will, be arbitrary. And, you have the things that we see today. Thirdly, like I mentioned before, there needs to be better synergy between the three tiers of governments. From local government to state to federal, that joint planning board needs to meet more frequently, and there needs to be public engagement, in how these projects are conceptualized and how they're implemented. Because it would make no sense for a state to do a federal road and vice versa. There needs to be some cohesion, there needs to be some sustainability, there needs to be some some well-placed provisions that speak to specifically what these various tiers of government should do. I think if those things are addressed, by and large, I think the budgets will translate to better realities.
Okay, thank you very much, Viola. Prof, he talked about the need for us to strengthen, the legislation, especially when it concerns, budget monitoring and implementation. How do you go about now strengthening the various institutions and agencies responsible for this? From the conversation we have had so far.
I also want to say that we are not short of laws. What we are short of is implementation or compliance. However, there's room for improvement. But at the end of every third quarter, before the budget, the ministry, every organization's revenue generation will come with their medium-term plan, because the budget has to be tied to that. So they come up with it. So no budget is yearly. It's tied to the long-term plan. And they are mandated to come to the National Assembly, most of the Committee on Finance, to defend them and ensure that these are the paths from the executive will do. The first ministries to come, the agencies to come. When they come and present this, you evaluate them as before the budget, and when the budget needs to tie to them. Maybe the legislation is talking about will be, are they really tied to the long-term plan, as development goals? Are they really sustainable? Are they really accountable? These are the things. Then, before you start talking about innovations and others, maybe these are the areas to be done. I'm not saying that every law has been cooked completely, that everything has been done, but
you don't believe that there is need for us to strengthen the various institutions as well?
Of course. That's the bane of our national development is institutions not strategic enough and not strengthened in this case, whereby there's no deterrent and there's no punishment. These are major aspects of our pitfalls, where people can do whatever they want and go scot-free. And where there's no deterrent, there's mistakes bound to be repeated. So these are actually areas, I think, that laws need to be maybe harnessed. But if administration comes and continues to strengthen, I believe that we'll get to that El Dorado one day. And yeah.
All right.
So we'll begin to make it more inclusive and okay. All right,
Thanks, Professor Namchi. We need to round now, and of course, would begin to round off our thoughts. Dr. Adedokun, you've spoken really well. Listening to you talk about procurement is key in all of this. Really, it's very important in how the budget translates at the end of the day, whether good or bad. I mean, you have said what you want to do, your plans and all, but I'm just thinking, you cannot do all of this all by yourself. So how do you want to get the right team in place? So that, there's no one trying to do the wrong thing somewhere. You talked about civil society. I was also going to ask Mr. Kwaga, because, there's this narrative now about some foreign bodies influencing what civil society does, I feel like, NGOs and the like. But speak to us in your own space. How do you want to get the right team? We're talking about Nigerians too. Yeah, just so that we can get this done and get it right.
Thank you. First, we need to build trust in the public. It's key. Nigerians have to trust us. I need to endanger in the hearts of Nigerians that things are no longer the same. Public trust. Secondly, is what we call inclusiveness. Right now, we need to get women. I've said it several. If you are going to cook a good food, forget whatever anybody will say. A woman cooks and this is a good food.
Please say that louder.
Yeah,
Mr. Demola needs to hear.
It is
I need to repeat
We've had
Hold on.
had some
There's no two ways.
contest where the men won, actually.
No,
I'm glad it's coming from a man. So that's why I want him to speak louder, please.
You see, that's just normal once in a while, but it's not the norm. It's an exception. Women are endowed to cook well.
No doubt.
And they are managers of resources.
No doubt.
If you give a woman money, go back, you will find that she has kept some change.
That's
and
why
she will
I asked her this morning.
Hold on,
She's
hold
still
on.
living on.
Don't let me lose my touch. Women have a way of cleaning the house well. If a woman cleans the house and I clean, there's a difference. So if we get more women to participate in procurement processes, you will see that roads will be better, our hospitals will be better, our schools will be better, our languages will be well spoken better. So we must help by getting more women to participate. Thirdly, we have those with disabilities and youth. Youth of Nigerians are the best in the world with innovations. Come on, let's get them to come and do projects. Now, the other part is data analytics. We must get our civil society, professional bodies to begin to analyze data. When you analyze data, you can give government sense of direction. That's why we must release information to them to analyze what's the level of poverty. Fourthly, that we must do is to help small and medium scale enterprises. You see, we're choking them too much with our rules. We need to calm down a bit. We need to lower the procurement rules. That's why small and medium and micro enterprises are not functioning. They are not at par with their global bodies. So on our watch now, we see that that's the tool for rapid economic development by us giving them. I can't be comparing a Nigerian farm with a foreign farm that has the financial might, and I expect the Nigerian farm to do well. For us, as the enabler of economic development and growth, we will need to take on board the small-scale businesses and give them some succor, give them some conditions that will allow them to grow, and allow our best brain to beat with the best in the world, and you will see changes.
All right, thank you very much. Vayala, let's get your perspective. What are the takeaways from this conversation that you would advise that the policymakers should hold on to?
So for the executive, just like Doctor said, there needs to be a lot more information put out. We need to transform our thinking into one that looks at measurement, because it's from measurement that you'll be able to plan, you'll be able to implement policy. So the executive really does need to, step up to that plate in terms of providing that information and ensuring that it influences the process of policy formulation. You know, for the legislature, governance is impossible without the legislature and their input, because not everything can be statistically analyzed. There needs to be morals, values, ethics, you know, knowledge from politicians who have that experience and that institutional memory to decide on behalf of their constituents.
Okay, thank you very much, Vayala Kwaga. Because of time, we need to round up the conversation. But I'd like, in 30 seconds, Professor Namchi, your final words to round up the conversation.
I think from the budget perspective, people need to break all the bottlenecks, remove all the politics about budgets, and make sure that the institution are strengthened to offer the country the national development and the stable economies that they deserve, including social welfare.
Thank you so
then
much.
There's a force in the National Assembly to step up our M&E so that the people will see the impact of why they have voted us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that is coming from you, Prof. Fantastic way to end the conversation.
There can always be room for improvement.
Oh, of course. That's the largest room in the world. Yeah. Professor Paul Namchi, Member House Committee on Finance and Member House of Representatives representing Enugu East and Isuzo Federal Constituency from Enugu State. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The pleasure is mine.
For your thoughts. And of course, Vayala Kwaga, Group Head, Research and Policy Advisory, Budget Foundation. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for your insights and look forward to having you some other time.
Thank you.
And yes, DG, Bureau of Public Procurement, Dr. Adebowale Adedokun. Thank you so much for joining us again. Of course, we want to see all of the things that you said, translate to reality, and see our budget better perform this year. Thank you so much. So that's...
well, that's Good Morning Nigeria.
What's your takeaway, by the way? Women are better cooks.
Well, you're better. I agree.
All right.
Well, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks for being with us. My name is Ademola Abioye.
And I'm Yanire John. Live locked on the NTA.